book of Vayikra is a book which deals for the most part with holiness. It's a book where we're told how to use the new Mishkan that we have. It's a book which deals with closeness or distance from the Mishkan. The beginning of the book tells us about different offerings which could be brought. It starts with the Korban Ola, the one which goes completely up into heaven. It continues and tells us different types of offerings which are brought by individuals and some which are brought by larger communities. When it gets to certain types of sin offerings, there is an interesting list of people. They're individuals, certainly. There are times that all individuals make mistakes and individuals need to change those mistakes. And that's the Korban Chatat. But the Chatat is not only addressed to a person, a regular person, or a lay person. It's also directed to somebody who could be a Kohen, somebody who could be a part of the court. And finally, somebody who could be the Nasi, which essentially means the king or the leader. The reason this should be surprising is that we find over here personal responsibility for people who in other cultures would have been given a pass. And it's more than that. When it comes to the leader, to the Nasi, the phrase which is used is not if the person perchance should sin, but rather when the person sins. It seems to be quite aware that people in leadership positions often make mistakes. And over here, instead of saying that the person has a divine right to rule, and therefore anything which they say is championed by heaven, as it were, over here we're being told that leaders will make mistakes and need to fix those mistakes. Over here, the Torah does not back away from that. Quite the opposite. It tells us it's an inevitability. It's going to happen. And therefore, the person who is the leader needs to come with a heavy heart, needs to come and to approach the temple, and needs to make sure that they fix the various mistakes that they made. What we learn from this is that people who had the most power and therefore could make excuses for anything that they did, and therefore could have perhaps pushed away with violence anybody who calls them on their mistakes, the Torah over here speaks loud and clear and says, when you make a mistake, you must make sure to fix it. Which means the leaders need to set examples from the top. The leaders need to create the type of an atmosphere that people are willing to admit the mistakes that they make, both on purpose and even those that were made by accident. For the most part, the Korban Chatat is one which is brought for things which are accidental. For the most part, when someone does deliberate sins, one would think that there's no offering whatsoever. Some of the phrases which are used by the leader, some of the discussions in the Talmud especially, the Jerusalem Talmud, could lead one to believe that perhaps even when done on purpose, there's still sin offerings that could be brought. The way that the Maharal, in his commentary, the Gur Aryeh, understands even the Korban Ola, which is normally understood as something which is done out of a person's own volition. There's no sin which preceded this, although the Torah speaks of the Ola ultimately as clearing a person's soul. It would seem to be that even that, according to the Maharal, even the Ola, according to the Maharal, is brought when an individual sins b'mezid, on purpose. And again, this is a little bit surprising because one would have thought that a person who's a sinner cannot really approach the temple. What we learn over here is that people have responsibility. People make mistakes. Nobody's infallible. The people with more power have more responsibility. If a judge gives a ruling which is mistaken, the judge has a responsibility for the people that make a mistake. If most of a particular tribe or even the entire community of Israel sin, it is the leaders who perhaps passed the law or gave the ruling or told the people that what they did was correct. When the king makes a mistake, he has to make sure that these are fixed. And what this does is create a society which tries to be better, which takes responsibility. Instead of having some type of a trickle-down situation where people are abusive and people are uncaring and people will just cover up their mistakes. Over here, the Torah tries to create a situation where from the top down, where we fully expect the leaders to make a mistake, because that's part of the responsibility of leadership, is that when there's great responsibility, mistakes do happen. And sometimes those mistakes have a great deal of impact that even those leaders need to face themselves, to face their mistakes, to face God, and to make the proper changes in themselves, in the society, to fix the relationship with God, and to make sure the entire Jewish people are operating in a holy fashion.